Well, I want to welcome everyone to Legendary, the podcast. Once again, Kevin Jonas Sr., and we are so thankful that you take time to tune in and listen along to us as we talk to exciting and wonderful people. And today we have someone really exciting from currently Nashville, Victoria Shaw.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I am so excited. We met through a mutual friend,
Yep.
Leslie DePiro, and her husband, Bob. And she recently started working with us. We just announced it yesterday,
I know.
As a matter of fact.
So excited. So proud of her. She's my soul sister.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we are excited. I don't know if she told you, but I used to knock on every door on Music Row trying to shop my songs.
No, I did not know that.
Way back in the day. And
What,
when
like, when?
That was late 80s.
Wow.
So I was one of those guys that would come to town with cassette tapes. And
me too. I get it. Yeah.
Say, please listen. And most of them said, we don't receive unsolicited material.
Right.
So I had to find ways outside of Nashville and beyond. So the fact that we are now in Nashville and Leslie's working with us, I'm
Full circle there.
full circle, a literal circle.
Yes.
And I am truly amazed. But it's an honor to have you on our show.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So how long have you been in Nashville?
Oh, long time. And when you were, late 80s you were talking about, I was probably passing you on the street with my cassette in my hand, just really hunkering down and trying to make my way in this place. Although I was still living in New York as well, and I was driving back and forth every 6 weeks or so because I was playing in piano bars, and that's how I made my living. So
that's great.
Didn't give that up until literally till I had my first single out because, you needed to pay the bills, right?
When people ask me, why didn't you just take the plunge and move?
Right.
It's like, well, I had kids.
Right.
At a young age. There's no way I could have moved to Nashville. And I knew songwriters that had number one hits in the Christian world, especially,
Right.
that were painting houses and
Yes.
doing construction. And it's like, I'm a little too practical to give up what I do and just take that massive plunge.
I think for me personally, well, first of all, I adore New York and I still have a place there. But the bar scene was really lucrative for me. I made a really good living. I enjoyed it, and it freed up anything I could say. Hey, I'm going to take this month off and I'll come back. And they always gave me my gig back, which was nice. So I would drive down to Nashville and hustle and network and demo and write, and then go back up to New York and do my thing. And I really think I'm a better probably writer for it or whatever. However, I think things might have happened faster had I just made that commitment,
Well, there is something to be on the ground.
Yes.
With my kids right after we landed in Los Angeles. They did something for Disney that led to something else. It took off a month later. They went from being dropped by Sony to overnight top 10, but after 2 or 3 years of struggling. So I get that, but I also appreciate somebody like me that had something going and needed to juggle the two.
Absolutely. And the story's, nobody's story is the same,
Right.
Whatever. It's an interesting road when you look back and you go, oh, that's why I did that. That's why I didn't do that.
So you started in New York. You are from New York.
I was born in New York, but raised in Los Angeles, which makes such sense that I'm in country music.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a perfect segue from New York, L.A. You just missed Brazil.
Exactly. It's really crazy. I was all completely brought up in L.A. since the time I was 5 till the time I left there at 18. So those were my formative years.
What part of L.A.?
In the Valley.
What part of the Valley?
I literally went to Encino Elementary.
That's where one of my sons and his wife and the baby, Nick and Priyanka are right there.
It's a lovely place. When I was growing up, it was much more kind of like Nashville, actually. There were actually some sheep farms, sounds funny, and there was just more of a laid-back thing, even though you would go in a coffee shop and you would see maybe a movie star, which was wild. But it was pretty, it was diverse and it was humble, and I don't know. I lived in a smaller house, but I loved it.
I didn't love being in the height of Hollywood, especially the boys were well known, so I
can't even imagine.
Kind of insanity.
Yes.
And for a while we moved over like Bel Air, Beverly Hills area, and I was like, I'm from a small town in North Carolina. I was beyond a fish out of water.
Right.
I did not like it. The buses drove by.
That's invasive, yeah.
Paparazzi's chasing the guys down the street. So that part, but the valley I loved, and we were like in Toluca Lake, which had
Beautiful.
a little hometown area and hometown feel, which was awesome. So were you performing there growing up?
From the time I was 12, I had a band. And my parents had been in show business, but got out when I was like 2 or 3. But they were very understanding that I wanted band practice in the middle of the living room. They didn't even blink, and was very, supportive. So my sister had who's 3 years older. She had friends who were musicians, and I kind of got together with them. It's funny. My parents let me do the gigs, but never to go to Waffle House or wherever, to out afterwards because they were older than me. But we would play.
Did you say that as a reference? Because my son's just released a song called Waffle House.
I didn't, but I realized that maybe that's why it popped in my head.
That is so funny because that was where we would stop with them when they first started. But when I was singing in country music clubs in North Carolina, we would stop at a Waffle House because it's the only thing open.
I was trying to think of the equivalent, to make the story like they wouldn't let me go to. There was a place called Page's, which was a pancake house, but I thought Waffle House was more of a universal note.
No, I appreciate the plug.
But we played everything. I played high school dances, junior high dances, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, divorce parties because it was L.A. and
big celebrations
big
for
celebrations.
divorce.
I played on the weekends, and it was great. I loved it. I was the keyboard player and the singer, which is why I can't dance because I played the dances.
That's right.
But it was great, and I had a great experience doing that and learned a lot. And then at 18, I always was intrigued with New York. We'd go to visit family there. And I was just working, I moved out of the house. I was living with my sister in Woodland Hills. And I was working for a magazine, not doing anything fancy, but I was working for this magazine. And my sister said, why are you so bummed? I said, I don't know. I just, I'm not really happy. And she goes, where would you want to be right now? And I said, I'd like to be in New York. And she said, okay, call right now, pick up the phone and make a reservation, get a plane ticket to New York for 1 month from today. And I did.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was life-changing. I had an aunt there who I didn't really know that well, but she said, come stay with me. And we became super close.
Are you Italian?
No, I'm Jewish.
Jewish?
Mm-hmm. And
kind of the same in New York.
Exactly.
Family is family is family,
Exactly.
and extended family.
Exactly. I always say, one is born guilty, one just learns it as they grow. And they both talk with their hands a lot.
My wife, Italian background, mother's name Madonia, but they were like Newburgh, Poughkeepsie.
There you go. It's just, it's all very ethnic and very family oriented and come stay with me and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. And I stayed with her for the first year until I could afford to move into the city. But I started playing I started working at a recording studio. I sent letters out to every place I could find. And I just wanted in.
Right.
I just didn't care what
You went in playing or you went in doing anything?
Anything. So I said something like, I'm here and blah, blah, blah. I can sweep. I can answer phones. I can sing background vocals. I can do whatever.
Sweep and
yes,
at the same time?
Exactly. And I also realized this is maybe I don't know if my dad ever said this, but I watched my dad be creative and hustle in a good way. So I knew that everybody likes free.
Yeah.
When you offer free, they're going to say yes. And I said, all I need is train fare in from Long Island. So I got a call from this recording studio that said, we could use somebody to answer phones and open up in the morning.
Right.
Great. And I made myself so irreplaceable. I organized and I, greeted people and I learned how to do tape copies. And by the end of the month, I said, thank you so much, but I really can't afford to be here. I'm so sorry. And they were like, well, how much do you need?
Yeah, exactly. Because if you leave, we're unorganized again.
So they offered me, I don't know what they decent, just a little money. And then the man that owned the studio, one of the men, also was a host of a open mic night at this place in Midtown. And he said, our piano player just quit. You got to come play. And I was like, I can't play for other people. I can only play for myself. I'll be too nervous. He goes, just come. So I went and played, and I'm a good reader. So when they put the sheet music in front of me, I was like,
got it.
Oh, I can do this. And I did that for quite a few years. And then I got hired to play the cocktail hour, and that kind of took off in the city. It's funny.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you're now playing for an open mic,
Yeah.
were you also working in the studio?
I was working in the studio during the day. Oh, working like playing and singing?
Did you get into the music side of it or the recording side at that point?
No, mostly I got to do free demos, so that was good. So it was only for me. Like I didn't, I'm not really a studio musician, I don't think. And I might have been asked to sing some harmonies sometimes, but it was like a 16-track studio. It wasn't a 24-track at the time. So it was more like, local demos, local artists. I met a lot of cool people. And
there's so much talent.
There's so much
New York,
talent. It
and
was
so
great.
diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole city is, every neighborhood seems, especially in the 80s, every neighborhood had a different flair.
It's true. It's still kind of true, honestly. And but it was a great experience, and I wouldn't trade that for the world, because I just learned a lot, in general, about business, about doing things. It helped.
And you were using that time, you were able to do your own demos.
Yes. And I didn't have to have a day job. That was
amazing.
my day job. I didn't have to be a waitress or a bartender or whatever that is. So I just
Which is like a rite of passage for anybody that's in our world.
Funny, I lived with lots of actresses, up and coming, and I got to kind of peek into their world. And most of my friends are professional, which is great. We all kind of did it. But it was so interesting because I was the only one pursuing music, and I was...
I assume Broadway, acting.
Movies, all those things they were doing. Yeah. So I was the one pursuing I found this Nashville. I'm going down there and back up and down and back up.
So how long were you in New York before and making these demos before you said Nashville has a similar vibe?
I'd written some songs because I started writing just for fun. I'd written, I'd been writing since I was 12. Nothing, right. I didn't think I was going to be a writer, but it was fun. And I wrote a song, and my dad really liked it. And my dad was a character. I loved him dearly, but he was bigger than life. And he was an inventor. He would just try things, you know? And so also he was just interested, and he said, why don't you come back to L.A.? I found some musician. I found a man who knows musicians, and we'll cut a 45 with that song. And I said, okay. I'm trying to think if that's how it all went. Yeah, so
for anyone younger that's listening,
a record.
A 45 was an actual
disc,
vinyl disc that we loved.
Yes,
and sounds amazing still to this day.
Yes, and I found a song and wrote a song, for the B-side. I didn't know, and he didn't know either, but he happened to have met a really legit guy named Jerry, oh my gosh, I can't think of his last name right now. But he was a really real producer and had all these amazing musicians who eventually became actually Nashville musicians.
Oh, great.
So we cut these songs, and I started going down to Nashville. And he, my dad, he wanted me to make, fathers, okay, and their daughters. And he really wanted me to do this. And I started to kind of go around. Somebody took me around. And I started to play publishers my music.
Here in Nashville.
Thinking that they'd give me songs. Like I'd get a deal or they'd give me songs to record. And this one man named Charlie Monk, who just passed away, I loved him so much, he was a publisher. He said, you wrote this song? And I said, yes. And he said, if you ever want to come down here and try it with the big boys, let me know and I'll set you up with some rights. And that was amazing. And at the same trip, somebody who I had made friends with said, you should go to this place called the Bluebird Cafe. They have this thing called the Writers in the Round. It's brand new. You should go. And I went by myself, and there was 4 hit songwriters, and I think Paul Davis was one of them. I go crazy.
That is my number 3 song.
I love it so much.
Of all time. It's so funny you called that out.
I love it so much.
My number 1 is Willie, Angels Flying Too Close to the Ground, Desperado, and then I Go Crazy.
That's funny. Well, it's one of the most perfect songs. I love it.
It's perfect. I've told people that it was the line in the second verse, you say he satisfies your mind, tells you all of his dreams. I know how much that means to you. That's when I decided I needed to write songs and also try to understand what he meant.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
By that.
And I love, Nashville, even though he was a pop writer as well, Nashville has that conversational thing, you know? I love it so much. Anyway, I saw this in the round, and that to me was like a religious experience. It was just
I totally understand.
Nobody had ever done it before. I watched it with my mouth open, and it was like an epiphany. I thought, oh, that's what I have to do. I'm going to become a hit songwriter, and I'm going to get recognized for that, and I'm going to get my record deal for that. Which was so naive in a way, like, But thank God I didn't say I was going to be a dancer because I can't dance. But I guess I had a knack for this. And I was like, I'm going to buckle down and write hit songs for other people. And I just concentrated on that. And that changed my whole world.
It's hard to describe for people the magic of a writer's round.
Yes, it's magical.
Especially when you have those guys that have just done it and they tell the stories behind the songs that you know so well. We were at a round during the recent Tin Pan, and as they were singing, and it was Bob DiPiero who was up there, and he went in to get me to the church on Cumberland Road, and then another guy brings up, Jesus Take the Wheel, and my wife leans forward and she said, "You really love this, don't you?" And it was like down to the depths.
She probably saw it in your face.
Of my soul. Like I was having the time of my life. Forget that Leslie is married to him. It was more like, oh my God, this is the birth.
I still feel that way. I feel that way when I go to a concert, and I feel that way when I'm in a round with people I admire.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. I love it.
And you can admire it.
Oh,
but I think people who stay healthy in this business look at the people who achieve, and they're not jealous. They admire. They're not jealous. They go, well, somebody did something right.
Absolutely. I can't. The whole jealous thing, I have no interest in. I used to think, and also I read that, anything bad you think is karmically bad for you. You know what I mean? So if you wish bad on them, it's going to only bounce to you. So I used to rent a house in East Nashville with a up-and-coming songwriter named Jess Leary. Even though I had my place in New York, it was cheaper than living in the Shawnee Hotel that I used to do. So it was like $200 a month or something to keep half a house here. So we were both aspiring songwriters, and I told her, listen, I read you can't think negative thoughts when somebody gets something we don't have. So every time, if that happens, we had this little ritual. I'd come into the house and I'd go, did you hear that, whatever, Joe Smith just got a publishing deal? And then whoever told the other person would go, good for him. I'm so happy for him. That was our ritual. I'm so happy for him. And I, in my head, thought, it just makes me closer to the bat.
Yeah.
I'm closer to my turn.
That's actually incredible. LA's not like that. LA doesn't have that same supportive push.
Right. Like friendly competition.
Friendly competition.
Yeah.
It's okay. I've kind of said in my life, like, I can take that you beat me, that you get there before me. I just don't want you to out-hustle me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, don't work harder. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to work harder, and I want to push. I want my stuff to be great. But that's also for me. That's not necessarily so that other people even recognize it, but to cultivate that attitude of good for them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Not in the Southern way of bless their little heart.
No, and I actually, when I hear a song that like blows my mind, I just think, that's the caliber of songs I want to be involved with, just, yes, it's a beautiful thing. I love the art of it. And I so appreciate anybody who touches me deeply. I'm not a crier, but there's a couple of songs that, Lee Miller, he wrote a song called, Then They Do, I think it's called, with Trace Atkins about, growing up.
Yep.
It was like, I remember driving and starting to, tear up. That and a song called Letter to Me by Brad Paisley.
Yeah, incredible song.
I probably cried 3 different times listening to those lyrics. And I love that, it's amazing.
I still love that. The recent song was a song called Ceilings, which is blown up on TikTok, but it was just this acoustic-based song, string quartet, in the middle of New Music Friday, which is pop and R&B and all the rest. And I'm just listening because I'm in this business and I'm driving a long distance. Song captured me, I went back. Song captured me, I went back. I finished up the entire New Music Friday, like 70 songs, whatever it is. Went back, found the girl, looked her up.
Who was it?
McAlpine, Lizzie McAlpine.
Huh.
New, and of course, it's blown up. And by the time I discovered it, I think there was 100 million already because of TikTok. It's a trend about coming home. But it literally arrested me. Like,
how beautiful. That's
and I
lovely.
still love those moments. My kids have a song on the upcoming record called Little Bird.
I
Probably
can't
can't
hear
even
it.
talk about it, about their daughters. And so incredibly special.
I can't wait to hear it. Can I make a correction? The song that Lee Miller did was "You're Gonna Miss This." That was the Trace Atkins song.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Great song.
That's great. Yeah. You said you looked her up and everything. I Shazam constantly.
So do I.
I can be in TJ Maxx. I'm like, what is that song?
Yeah, I look weird most of the time.
I do it a lot.
Because that gives you, if they're smart,
Yeah.
it gives you like background information.
Totally, and lyrics, and there's website and all sorts
Little
of things.
EP.
Love it.
Okay, and you're looking through everything, going, oh, that's where she's from. That makes sense. And there was an interview with her, and she was so adorable. I don't know her at all.
Right.
She was so adorable. She's just like, I just wanted my songs to say this, and I'm just really surprised. There are better songs, I think, on. So endearing and so a songwriter that, again, I was just captured. And when I would come to town, my wife and I would go, okay, what can we part with? And it would be our couch.
Okay.
So we would sell a couch. I'd use that to fly here, and I would come to the songwriters conferences. And one of the songwriting conferences, there was a guy that was speaking, and I realized down the road that the real songwriters and the guys choosing songs probably left town when all the songwriters came to town. But the guys that were speaking were great. And he said, don't compare your songs to the people around you. Compare your songs to the people that are winning Song of the Year. And at that time, it was Paul Overstreet. Over and over and over
Yes.
and over again. And he was on that run with a guy I used to sing and compete against in North Carolina.
Oh, that's funny.
Randy Travis.
Yeah.
And so I was drawn to his lyrics and those simple concepts of home and South and family and love and commitment. And I knew there had to be some faith background in there, the spirituality or whatever it was. There was something. But I started comparing my songs without jealousy to the people that were truly great. And you moved to a town where it's spiritual songwriting. It's honored. It's sacred.
Yes. It's like the last frontier, that is really about the song, not about the production. Because when you strip away all of that, all the drum machines and all of this, if it's not a solid song at the core, it might be a hit for a minute, but it won't be, played 20 years.
It won't be a classic. It won't be The River.
Well, thank you.
First time I heard, speaking of emotion, first time I heard that song, sorry, don't want to get emotional.
Oh my God, I'm so honored. I'm so touched.
Sorry.
Thank you. Oh my God.
The first time I heard that song, and I loved Garth Brooks. Love Garth Brooks. The first time I heard that song, I'll sell my vessel till the river runs dry. I was so moved I couldn't speak for a week. Wow. And if a few things have done that. That song, Les Mis, and my son has been a part of it on Broadway. But just the redemption of that, I couldn't talk after. And if you asked me about it, it would be like, well, I don't know.
In Les Mis, is it stars or is it the whole soundtrack?
The entire theme, the part that got me was so early on. It was he gets out of prison and he fails and he should go back to prison, and the priest says to him, I forgive you.
Yes, take these.
I've bought your soul for God.
Oh, I got chills just now. It's true. It's true. I've seen that show so many times.
And I cried until Master of the House and then started crying again till the end. And that's what a great moment and a great song will do.
Yes.
And your song did that for me. And I'm just so grateful that I get to sit in moments like this and talk to people that have impacted my life. Talking to a Tony Orlando, and he sang Tie a Yellow Ribbon, and my uncle came back from Vietnam. We had yellow ribbons, and he's become a friend. So this exchange, it gives me a chance to say thank you.
Oh,
someday, so Paul Davis, I'll be able to find a way to honor that or the Eagles. But it really has been great to have CeCe Winans and Stephen Curtis Chapman. And
Stephen Curtis Chapman used to write for that first publisher that helped me out. So he would do my demos for $100. He would
Wow.
play. He would play everything and sing, and it would be like $100.
And 50 plus number ones.
Yes,
and
yes.
who knows how many Dove Awards and Grammy
Yep.
Awards.
So he was a talented guy back then, but he was just hustling like us all, like we all were.
Well, that's what people may not understand, which I would love to know your perspective on that. When you came down here, I had a moment of, oh, well, Brent Rowan plays guitar better than I'll ever play, and Susan Ashton sang better than I'll ever sing. And I started going through, and it's like, I better get into the music business part of this because these people are unbelievable, and they're like driving me to the hotel. What was your realization when you realized that just the true caliber of songwriter and talent and lyricist that were here?
I was literally delusional and thought, I am absolutely getting my shot. Like, sometimes I think it was either, sheer confidence or absolute stupidity, because my story took longer than anybody. Because I didn't commit to Nashville, I think it took longer. So, it was an 8-year process for me before I could, I couldn't get arrested, but people were nice enough to at least, talk to me or take my meeting or something. But 8 years of nothing. And I finally got a publishing deal by an independent publisher named Gary Morris, who was an artist at the time.
Of course.
He was the only one that kind of took a chance on me.
Wow.
And the following year, I had 3 number 1 songs. It was like God went, and go.
Now.
But before that, nothing.
That happens.
It was wild.
So many times. In this town, it's a little bit of a cliche that it's a 10-year town.
I've never heard that.
Oh, really?
No, that's interesting.
I
think
know
most people should understand that, because at the Bluebird or whatever, young people are constantly coming up to me going, I came here 2 years ago to make it, as a songwriter. I'm going to give it 1 more year, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to go back to nursing school. I'm going to go back to so-and-so. I always go, if there's an either or, do your or, because people like me, it was like, I'm either going to do this or I'm not going to breathe again.
Right.
Like,
I had no or.
Yeah. Yes, that's what makes you, succeed, is like.
But it was 20 years for me.
Yes. Oh, well.
But between even dedicating my life to it, dropping out of high school, and then first
You
goal.
dropped out of high school?
I did.
I took the GED at 16.
Yeah.
Don't listen to this,
Yeah.
young people.
Do not accept this career choice advice.
No, I
wouldn't recommend it today.
Either. I would not.
But I was, I sang and I got paid, and I went, I like this.
Exactly.
And I sometimes joke about it, but it was true. I liked being able to sing professionally. I liked alcohol at the time a lot.
Yeah.
And I really liked older women. And as a teenage boy, it was like,
this
jackpot.
Where can I go that this works? That's
The
really
drama
funny.
was behind them.
That's really
The pretense was gone.
I love that.
And I was like, this works for me. Because I never had a filter or tolerance for drama.
That's great. No, me neither.
Yeah, but it took 20 years. And then Michael W. Smith took a chance on a song, and I ended up with like a record on his gold record.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, 20 years later.
That just shows you it never occurred to you to give up.
There was no choice.
Right.
There's
it's
no
in your
choice
blood.
for me.
It's like a disease in a way.
I tried to do country music. I came here, did a country record, never really released it. I had worship stuff out there. Like, music was all around me. I really do joke that my kids were in my van before I was in their jet. Like, they traveled the world.
They watched you, yeah.
And our group passed them around. And we did it the hard way. We did it independent. I never had a record label, and I had a living in music. So, but I did it the hard way before there were successes.
Aren't we lucky, though? Because I always feel like I have a lot of that same thing, is that I just always say, but there's cement under us. It's like,
boy, that's good.
There's cement. There's not shaky ground. It's not like we got here and think, oh gosh, what if I get, what if I don't know how, I don't know what. It's like, no. There's like cement underneath us.
Well, there's this old story that this guy heard the Lord say, go out and push that giant boulder. And he went out and pushed, and the next day he did it, and he just was so faithful to do what he thought he heard from the Lord. And he goes out, he pushes, and it's going nowhere. And after years, he looks up at heaven and said, why did you do this? Why did you have me waste all my time? And the Lord said, look at your arms, they're strong.
Oh,
look at your legs, they're strong.
That's good.
This was for you, not the rock.
That's good.
Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah, I've gone through a lot, cancer and other things, and this is part of my therapy. Is I talking to people who have cement under them.
Well, both of us, yes. It's it's an amazing place to be in. It's an amazing profession, but I also never forget that it's not all who I am. It's what was in my heart, and especially as I get older, I think I always knew, like family was going to be the more important, children would be more important.
Right.
And I never lost that perspective, Not that, I had nothing else to do career-wise that I wanted to do, but I also have lots of interests, and I have lots of friends, and I have lots of love in my life, and I always knew to balance, and if given the choice, I've got to do this for my kids or I got to take that trip, I would be a lot wealthier if I had taken those trips, all those writing things. But it was like no contest.
No contest.
Yeah.
Same.
And part of it's because I waited longer, and so I had a lot of life experience, and I wasn't missing out on things.
So at this point, did you have kids?
No. It was no. And I knew that. I knew I didn't want kids till later because I wanted to be selfish, and I meant I wanted to concentrate on me and getting there, but I knew I wanted kids without a doubt. That was in my plan
right.
the whole time.
Now I wanted to be a dad, no question. It came early, and then came responsibility, and I think that didn't hinder
hard.
me, but it did pause my step towards a place like Nashville.
Absolutely. I understand. If I would have had kids early, I don't really know what I would have, happened. I think I would have been in the business. I'm not sure I would have been a songwriter. I think I would have pursued, I would have been a good publicist or a manager.
Yeah. And that's ultimately where I ended up, was helping other people, which I think more than songwriting. I was the guy that wrote, but knew that I Go Crazy was better. And maybe that's part of, I will go into a vocal booth and I sing, and I'll go in, and with my artist, my go-to line is, well, this is good, but I can do this.
Right. That's interesting.
You're not really done until you do what we mere mortals can't do. And boy, does that ever pull a great vocal out of a vocalist who's able.
Great.
And I know I'm functional.
Right.
Right? I can go in and sing, and I was a good backup singer, decent singer. But boy, those great voices.
And also, I did get that record deal eventually, but it wasn't meant to be. I had a couple albums out. I got to tour the world. I'm very, very grateful that I can cross that off my list. I got that record deal. But it just didn't sync up. It didn't happen. Never, just didn't happen. But, oh God, you just said something that made me want to say that, is some mics or microphones love voices.
That's
I don't
true.
think I have a voice. I think I'm much better live. I don't think a mic loves my voice.
No, I totally understand that.
And I'm totally honest enough to know that.
I've worked with artists that I'm not always impressed with their vocal ability, but man, do they go to an actual recording. What we used to say, they tape well.
Yes, yeah, and they have that thing.
It's that thing.
Yeah, it's undescribable, and that's what's exciting.
So fast forward though,
Yes.
You come to town, you start writing songs, you end up signing a publishing deal, and then 3 hits.
Yes, yeah.
Right, within a year.
Within a year, it's crazy.
What happened? Did you walk in with those, or you started?
I walked in with The River, funny enough, because that was written right before my publishing deal. But the other two, the first one, I think that year, was a song called Too Busy Being in Love for Doug Stone. And I wrote it with a guy that I had just started writing with named Gary Burr, who now I call him my musical spouse. We have had so many recordings together, and he's one of my best friends in the whole world.
It's awesome.
It was like just a beautiful platonic love affair that we've had. Well, we always say we're like an old married couple because we fight all the time when we don't have sex.
That's great.
But we've had a lot of success together. So
that's awesome.
It was Too Busy Being in Love. And then the next one was a song that I wrote about this guy that I was dating at the time, who I ended up marrying, actually. But I wrote it with this new guy I'd never written with named Chuck Cannon, who was dating a girl named Laurie White. We were, just all new. And we wrote this song, and I just thought, even though I had nothing at the time, I thought, this is a fantastic song. Like, this is a really important song. I showed it to Gary Morris, my publisher, who was also an artist, and he liked it, and he said, I want you to change, I think you should change this and this, whatever it was. He goes, but it's your song, and if you don't feel strongly, if you don't want to do it, it's your song. And even though I had nothing going on, I said, I don't think I want to change anything.
Wow.
And he said, that's totally fine. I won't cut it because I feel like it, but that's fine. And I don't know. I went, okay. And the plugger ended up pitching that song, and a brand new artist named John Michael Montgomery
Oh, my God.
cut the song, and it was his first #1, and it won me the Academy of Country Music
Huge.
Song of the Year. I Love the Way You Love Me.
Do I ever love that song?
Well, thank you. I mean, it was an interesting lesson. I mean, I'm not cocky. I mean, if somebody has something that's valid that I think, yeah, maybe that could be better, but I just knew in my gut that song was done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that song was done.
Yeah. It was a validating feeling.
I love the lyric of that song, but the melody choice, so great.
Thank you.
On that song as well. And I love the range because I have a big voice.
Yes,
so
it is
so
rangy.
somebody that can really hit.
Apparently, John Michael Montgomery does not enjoy singing that song every night. But he
No,
always
it's a
does
challenge.
Yeah, but he
it's
does
up
a
there.
great job. Yeah, and I have to say that melody was complete collaboration with Chuck and I. It was really fun. I like to write
Wow.
with people who can do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Gary Burr and I have such.
So then I assume you got on a run.
Well, people knew my name, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
that's what made, I think, the record deal happen faster. And then right around the same time I got the record deal, I also had another #1 with Garth called She's Every Woman. And that was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say it sucks. It's fun.
But with Garth, when it was Scorched Earth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he could have sneezed and it would have been, like out
like
there.
Diamond and Beyond.
Yeah. So, but that was fun. And then I got into making, doing my own album. And I think, I had a Tanya Tucker top 10 or something and had some other cuts, but I was concentrating on my own stuff. Although every time I would go out on the road and play fairs and festivals, I'd look to see who I'm playing with, and I would arm myself with cassettes and pitch songs.
Wow. That's incredible.
So I was thinking
Should have been a little bit of a clue.
that I was a songwriter first.
Yeah.
And then after the second album at Warner's, they actually offered me another one, and I just kind of felt like, and my father had just passed, and I felt like my life, I just needed to shake up the karma or something. It just didn't feel right. And I thought, I don't know what you're going to do differently with this album that we couldn't promote the last two. And I wanted to start having kids. So it was perfect to go back to my day job, which was songwriting. And I never had to miss a ballet, recital, a doctor's appointment. It was great,
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
Unlike other places like New York and LA where the studio life starts at 10.
Couldn't do it. Even back then, I couldn't do it.
It's a job here.
Yeah. It's like a 10 to 5 job.
It's a 10 to 5 job. Yeah. People have a home life.
Yes, it's wonderful. And they write quick here, which I know a lot of friends who come in from LA at first, they're like, okay, you guys write way too fast, way too fast.
Wait.
Yeah, they can't, first of all, think that it can be that quality if you're writing that fast.
That's right.
And the other thing is just their mind, and I keep saying, it's okay. You don't have to write fast. Everybody can write the way they want to. It's just kind of how a lot of speed, but it's okay. Nobody's judging you. At the end of the day, it's just how the song is, But I know a lot of people get overwhelmed by the speed of which we write.
I would be overwhelmed. but
I don't like to walk out of a session without the song completed. Like maybe 1% of the time the song's not done and we have to get back together. I was like, no, we'll just stay till it's done and then I'm done.
Right.
Or
the magic's just not on that song.
Yeah. I'm not a tweaker. I like to complete it well and then don't change a note.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very, like, if I'm not there at the demo session, it's like, no. Every single note counts. Don't change a note,
But that's also revering the song.
Yes. The song is the thing.
The song is the thing. And it always has been for me. So that's, again, I think what I love so much about Nashville.
Yeah, it's where the song still, it still means something. It's still, ironic that the songwriter is still paid less than anybody.
It's criminal.
It's ridiculous. I mean, considering this whole business is based on what we create.
Whether the artist writes or not.
Yes.
It's unbelievable that many of the greatest hits the world has ever known, the least important person on the totem pole,
Yep.
is that songwriter
Yeah.
or group of songwriters.
People don't understand that songwriters don't get to negotiate like, oh, Barbara Streisand wants to cut it and, whatever, Diana Ross wants to. Well, who's going to bid it higher? We're not allowed to. It's regulated by the government. We're the only non-government business that's regulated by the government. It's
Wow.
so weird, Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So I signed this girl, Terry Jo Box, who,
I know the name, yes.
if you haven't met her, she has 2 cuts on Lainey Wilson's new record.
Oh, wow.
And Cody Johnson.
Wait, did she used to play downtown?
She has the Music Row Freak Show.
Okay, I've heard her name, yes.
And fell in love with her when I visited that round. And she's an amazing writer. 3 years, I just said, I'm just going to do it. Let's do this way. And just invested in it. She wrote this song called God Bless the Boy. Cody Johnson's camp wanted it. We had somebody at Curb that wanted it. And I think Jim Ed Norman had already started the track. And then my son Kevin heard it. All 3 wanted that song at the same time. But there's no negotiation.
Right. It's who got it first, or how
it was kind of like, well, who was first in the pecking order, and
that's actually honorable view, because there's some
Sony called me. Yeah, my son didn't get it. Yeah. Cody Johnson got it, but it was.
Oh, Cody got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, what's the right thing? Who was there first? What was communicated? Who's been the one communicating? And that whole system of a hold on a song.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to say that's pretty honorable in these days, because back in the day, a hold was really important. That meant they're very close to recording.
It's like engagement to wedding. Nowadays,
they can put holds on so many songs. I don't really have a lot of faith in holds, to be honest with you. So It's nice that they honored that.
I said the last thing I want to do is have the first cut of our publishing company be tainted with not being honoring.
Right.
Plus, I'm hardwired.
Yeah, that's the way to go, and
I
that's
tell
good
people
karma.
there's a right, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a right, there's a wrong, and if it's in the middle, lean towards what's right.
Yes.
And so I don't find a lot that lives in the gray because of that. Who was here first? How should we do this?
Because if you do it the other way, that feeling lingers. You can't relax. Always looking over your shoulder, you know, never feeling like you fully deserved whatever happened to it, even if it becomes a hit.
And it's a small town.
Yeah, it is a small town.
It's a small, big town.
Yes.
And especially the creative community here, because it is such an honoring place, and it's so much about the song.
Word gets around.
Word gets around. and it does, I think, everywhere.
Yeah.
But you've survived here.
I survived here. It started to get slower when I'm trying to think what year it was. I had the Ricky Martin and Christina Aguilera did a song of mine called "Nobody Wants to Be Lonely," and that was great. And then after that,
incredible.
Thank you. And things started slowing down, and I thought, what is happening? I'm not writing less well, but I'm not getting the cuts I used to. And that's when I realized, okay, when I'm looking at albums now, reading the credits, a lot of the producers are owning publishers, are the publishers of these writers. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not leaving town. And if they're not going to let me in their reindeer game, I'm going to find my own reindeer and figure it out. And for some reason, I thought it was going to, in my head, I thought this is going to be a 5-year process. I think because somebody told me once publishing companies take about 5 years to launch or to make money. So I thought, I have time. And I thought I would look for a male artist because I'd had so many hits with men, you know. And I would look for a male artist to who could sing and write, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, funny enough, I went to see my friend Linda Davis and her family Christmas show. And I hadn't seen her little girl, Hillary, in a long time, Hillary Scott. And she comes out, she's like 15, I don't know. And she sings, not great, but there's something in her tone that is really magical. Yeah. And I'm like the RCA dog, like, you know?
You're right.
And I walk over to her after the show and I go, Hillary, I want to work with you. And I'm not even sure what I mean by that. So why don't you come to my office and let's talk? So she, you know, and her parents really didn't want her in show business. She was going to be a beautician. I think she wanted to be like, you know, go into beauty school. Right. But her parents trusted me, thank God.
And her mom is quite a singer.
Quite a singer. But she also looks out for her baby, so she knew I was, never going to hurt her kid. So she came over to my office, and we started talking, and she sang a little more for me, and I said, I would like to develop you. I want to get you a record deal. You're in high school, Don't quit your tennis. She was co-managing the football team. I go, have your high school experience. We're not in a rush. We'll meet once a week, twice a week, whenever you can. We're going to meet, and I'm going to start teaching you how to write a song.
Wow. And
we did that for a couple of years. And during that time, well, the real story is I sent her to, there was a new kind of American Idol TV show that was about to happen. And I got her an audition. So I said, they're down at some 12th and whatever, some club. I said, go do this audition. And she went to this audition and she recognized this guy from MySpace who was Charles Kelly.
Wow.
Because she followed his brother, Josh. And they started talking. And he said, yeah, I write. She goes, oh, I write. And he goes, yeah, I have a friend, a partner that we write. And she started to get together with them. So the show, I think she didn't get on the show, but it lasted one episode anyway. But they started a friendship. And she called me and she goes, I met these guys. And we start to do this kind of fun side thing we're going to do. We're going to do it a side thing. And I thought, why does this make me feel like it's going to be something? And they started to play, and I saw them, and she looked really happy and really safe. And I just thought, and they called themselves Lady Antebellum, which was a funny, kooky name I didn't quite get, but I loved their sound. And I just kind of, as I say, made my arms bigger. And the guys started to hang out at the office, and we all wrote together. And 3 years later, they were playing once a week at 3rd and Lindsley. And, when we all knew it was right and ready, I'd never done this before. I just called every head of every label and every head of whatever I could and said, I've never asked you anything like this. Come see my band. And it's funny because in this town you have a showcase and it's thousands of dollars. This was like, just come to their gig. They're playing down the street.
Right, they're right down the street.
Didn't cost me a cent. And the room was filled with the right people. And we're in Nashville. You can hear the train.
Love it.
The room was filled with the right people. And by the next morning, they had 5 record deal offers.
That's
literally.
Amazing. From nothing.
From nothing. So I got to co-produce their first album and won an CMA award for I Run to You for production. They went on to other things, tale as old as time, but I'm very, very proud of that whole episode.
No, well, look, my kids are off to many exciting things. I was in the van.
Yeah.
I drove the van.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and being there for the origin of something.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of my friends who got people deals just got patted on the head and said, thank you very much, we'll take it from here. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, I'm in this.
So when you listen to that first album, you can really, I think, hear a different sound, because that was something that had my blood and sweat and tears on,
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of their success. And
congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, that's the birth of one of the great groups out there.
Well,
and she is such a great
singer.
Great singer, songwriter.
Yeah, really turned
diverse.
into a solid songwriter. They all did.
Yeah.
It was great, and it was because I didn't want to leave town. I had to come up with something, and I'm now developing a new artist that I'm so 100,000% sure he's going to be a superstar.
That's great.
Do we have time for me to tell the quick story?
Oh yeah, of course.
So I met this guy, the way it never really works. A friend of mine emailed me from North Carolina and said, my son goes to school with this guy. He doesn't really know him, but he has a band. And every time we see the band, we think it's really good. Could you talk to him? You get those calls every single day, right?
Every day.
And every day, if it's a good friend, you go, sure.
Sure.
And it's nothing.
And yes, 99 times out of 100.
It's 99 times out of 100. So this guy is named Cooper Allen, and he was interning at Coors in New York, funny enough, that summer, and I was in New York. We met. He had started sending me some songs. We met. He was really sweet, really nice. He had one more year of college. He went to UNC, and I said, look, you have one more year of college, so there's nothing I can do with you for you right now. You need to finish college. But keep my number, send me songs, and if you're serious and you end up moving to Nashville, let me know, and let's see what we can do. He called me a year later. We kept in touch, but he called me a year later and said, I'm graduating in 4 days, and I'll be in Nashville in 5.
Wow.
And he came to town, and he was already a decent performer. He really was, because he had experienced that stuff that you can only get by doing,
Yeah.
But he wasn't a great songwriter. And I said, he'll say the hardest school he's ever been to is the Victoria Shaw School of Songwriting.
I bet.
But I threw him in the room with me and a bunch of heavy hitters, and he picked up on it. And I would explain to him why this works and why that doesn't work. And he ate it up like, just hungry. So the only thing he lacked was social media numbers, because he didn't like it. A lot of guys especially, And I'd say he had like maybe 2,000, 3,000 people. And I said, you have to help me help you. I can't have more numbers than you. And he's like, do people really care if I have a sandwich? Yes, they do.
They do.
They do. If I was a kid growing up and Bette Midler had a TikTok or at the time it was an Instagram, I would want to know what sandwich she's eating. Every single thing. And I would blow it up to see if she put, what else she put on that sandwich. So he's like, oh, okay. And he would play out, and every night I'd go, just get 10 more followers. So cut to the next year or whatever. Right before the pandemic, I had said, this thing called TikTok, I'm not sure what it is. His girlfriend told him about it. It's like, I think it's going to be the next big thing. I'm not really sure. The pandemic hits, and he hates being idle and not working towards his goals. So that made him stuck in the house with his phone. And he started to kind of study this TikTok and look at it and try a few things. And all of a sudden something takes off. And that's fun, I guess, when you wake up and there's 100,000 involved. And now, since the pandemic, just TikTok alone, he has 8.2 million.
That's awesome.
And another 3 million on other things. But what was interesting was we were both like, this is really interesting. And we started to release music. Because, it's only good if people are going to actually listen to your stuff.
And they jump from social media over to commerce.
So all of a sudden, it's, we put out some music and it charts, on the streaming charts and Billboard. It's got millions of streams. I was like, okay. And then we do the next one. It's also doing well. And that's when I said, if you had a major record label right now, you would never see this money.
Right.
You wouldn't see it. They would hide it. They would take it. They would do it. Why don't we just form a record label?
Good for you.
And we did. And then the last piece of the puzzle was, so are they going to come from TikTok to putting their, tushes in the seats?
Right.
And he is selling out now 2,000 seat venues.
Awesome.
1,500. He's doing Stagecoach next week. So
my son Frankie will be there, so I will be there.
Oh, that's funny. Well,
they gave him like the DJ stage.
That's awesome
because he's just starting to release.
Well, I'll tell you when Cooper's playing, but His name is Cooper Allen, and he does these TikToks that are fun and these mashups that are funny, but he did it in a smart way because he knows that gets you to look in there, and then the next thing is going to be your song, and then another song, and then a little funny thing, and then the song, and people are staying for the music. It's awesome.
So early on TikTok,
yeah,
I was just coming out of cancer, still walking with a cane, still in pretty significant pain, and a friend of mine had introduced me to a dad and these kids, and they sing and they're a band, and they came to visit me in North Carolina, and I made my way to the back, like private dining of the restaurant we have there. And I said, well, look, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I'll do a little consulting for you. And then I said, I'll just bite the bullet. I like you guys. Seems like you're incredibly talented, great songwriters, etc. And about 3 months later, they said, one of our songs doubled in streams this month. Oh, good. The next month, our entire history just doubled. Something's going on. It was TikTok.
Right.
Early love song on TikTok, where it was almost all dances. This song became like the love theme.
I wonder I have to look it up because
it's called Make You Mine. The group is called Public, and it blew up. It has just the main version, 500 million streams.
Holy cow.
Today.
That's
signed
amazing.
them with a friend of mine, David Massey, when he was still there.
Right.
Signed them at Island just after David left. But
that's amazing.
They then had their moment, and it was the "I Love You" engagement song. So check that out. But the impact of TikTok,
I love TikTok. I do.
I love. That's where people are.
But I literally use it like Google. Like, I love TikTok. Not only do I discover new music, but the other night I was making dinner for some friends coming over, and I was like, hack for green beans, and like all of a sudden a recipe comes up. I don't even Google things anymore.
My wife and her friends are obsessed with TikTok, and it's funny, and it's the clothes, and it's the style.
But I've learned so much on that app. I love it.
Yeah, I get caught in all the like ancient civilizations and conspiracy theories.
So, well, I follow this one girl that lives at the northmost city right before the North Pole.
Wow.
And I am totally fascinated by this city. I might have to go. I just love TikTok.
I love it. It's broad culture. I don't know what they're thinking of. They're all talking and using our data.
Yeah.
But it's really powerful. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's been a really interesting journey. And for me, I know a lot about a lot of things, but he's the expert when it comes to social media. So it's a really fun collaboration with him,
Well, I tell people all the time, my thing that I go to as a manager, but just in life, is like, we'll tickle everything. But when one reacts, we'll double down on it.
Yeah.
And it might be touring. It might be social media. It could be IP.
Right.
You just never know what will give you your moment. But if you double down on that, it will elevate everything else. Our kids started on MySpace. And then when the label wouldn't do what you expect a label to do, they went to YouTube and started putting these funny short videos up that they were one of the first to survive with social media.
It's really an amazing tool. And I think, I don't know what the significance of major record labels will be. I mean, they're going to have to collaborate a little bit more transparent. And, I'm not against record labels. Maybe eventually we'll license with one or merge with one. I don't know. But I don't want to go to a record label going, please take us, please help us. I want to come in and go, here's what we have.
Well, you know what'll happen when you do that?
Yeah.
They'll then come to you and say, okay, we need something big. What do you have?
Yes, exactly.
Well, if I'm doing that.
Right. What do I need?
That's one of the reasons that I'm opening my own shop as well. It's like, I'm tired of being the guy that they ask for, like,
to do the work.
Contacts, to do the work, to come up with the creative ideas, and they take all the money.
Yes, that's exactly. Amen.
It's just, I get it.
Yeah.
When there's momentum, they're the best.
Right.
And they're great at it. But that development is missing.
There's a couple of labels I'll leave, not mentioned, but I know that just when the TikTok thing kind of blew up, they signed all these TikTok people. And then they put them through the normal machine, which is wait, get in the queue, start writing, let's see who you're going to be with. And all these people lost their audience.
Killed the momentum.
They killed the momentum and they lost their audience. I feel bad for them. It was like, that was so wrong.
They're writing a song. So they're taking the song or the moment that's viral.
Right.
And they're going to cash out on that, which will probably recoup whatever advance they gave. And one guy who's a marketing guy at a major, he told me that only 2% of those that have a viral moment have a successful second single.
Oh, that makes sense.
So you're betting on a viral moment, not a career.
Exactly.
And those of us that care about these kids,
totally,
they need a career.
Exactly.
And the viral moment is just one of many that could come. I looking back over, MySpace to YouTube, our children and their career, there were so many viral moments, but the support behind it was the work you put in to prop that up and keep it steady and keep trying. There's John Maxwell teaches on leadership, and he said, if you can't beat them, outlast them.
Oh, I love that.
Not join them, outlast them.
I love that.
So just outlast.
That's funny.
And that's, they just received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And it's, they've outlasted a lot of things.
That is quite validating right there. You know, but it's because it wasn't a joke, it wasn't a fluke, it was hard work, it was based on cement, all of that stuff, and obviously they have their head on their shoulders, because they had good parents. Which, speaking of parents, I think to be a great mentor, guide, help to develop an artist, whether they're with you or your blood or not. I think for me, I don't have any ego involved. Mm-hmm. I wake up every day and think, how do I make Cooper Allen a star? I still perform here and there because the money might be good or it's fun. I never think it's not an ego thing. It's not it's like, oh, this makes me, grin. But every day I wake up, how do I serve Cooper Allen? Because that's the only way you succeed. It's like getting out of, because if you still think in the back of your head that you're the star, it never works.
Never works. And too many record executives think they are the star.
Yeah, it's odd.
It's odd.
Yeah.
You're not making music. I had one executive tell me once, and tell me as a manager, not as the father, not as a guy that really loves these artists. He said, we'll be here, Kevin, long after the artist is gone. That's the way you think.
Absolutely.
Was somebody saying that about Bette Midler?
Yeah.
Were they saying that about Don Henley?
Yeah. No, they were like in it. They were religious about it,
Somebody had to be.
Yeah. You know what I learned when I was on Warner's was, doesn't matter if my song is number 60 or number 1. Those guys keep their jobs, the promoters.
That's right.
Like, it didn't matter. They didn't get, like, it didn't matter. And it was sad. It was a startling revelation for somebody,
I was told by a record company head that they were told that if our sons received a spin, they would lose their job.
Because they were trying to promote somebody else at the moment?
They were trying to promote somebody else and, quite honestly, trying to get rid of somebody that was championing our record.
Oh.
And it had nothing to do with my sons.
Was that a mutual friend of ours?
It was a mutual friend of ours that I won't get into. But yes, somebody we both know.
Interesting.
And
wow,
so we're out on a radio tour in radio stations with promoters locally that are being told they better not get a single spin.
Don't make him look good. Don't make this guy look good.
Don't mention them. Wow. I was sitting in one room with a program director at the radio station, and he said, are you going to play these guys for me? Because he was just a nice guy and felt bad that we're in the room doing liners in the other room, and I'm sitting in the office as everybody else is being played.
It's a weird business, and, like in any business, I'm sure if we were in the plumbing business, there's the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes.
There's good people, there's not such nice people, and,
But, I've been fortunate because our mutual friend is... the debt I personally feel I owe him is incredible. I mean, he really... If there was a chopping block... He laid his head down and said, I believe in this. And very few people will do that. I've been really fortunate with the people I know in this business. So I'm not bitter. I've been fortunate. And they would not have survived and thrived. And I wouldn't be in the position I'm in had they not been there.
Yeah.
Including people that dropped my artists.
Yep.
But we have friendship. I wish we could talk again.
Oh, this is so much fun.
Maybe, I'm hoping to do a roundtable here in town. So maybe next time we could do that because you just came up in that list of like, I've got getting to know you here.
Yes, I feel like we became fast and furious friends.
It's awesome, and congratulations on everything.
And congratulations on coming to town and just making your mark here. Everybody knows that you guys are here. I can't wait to see all the exciting stuff that's going to happen.
Well, there's a guy coming to town who has waited a long time to actually be inside the door that I knocked on.
That's great.
And I have no desire to do anything but honor the song, the songwriters, and the people here. So thank you for making your time. Thank you for writing The River.
Well, thank you.
And so many other songs. But that one in particular just rocked my world at the right time. And did so much for my heart and my spirit and my mind and my relationships. So all the best, all the kudos, you deserve them. And I'm glad you do have that cement underneath you.
Well, thank you. And thank you. I've had a blast, and I so appreciate the kind words. So let's do it again.
Thank you. And you guys, we love doing this. I love doing this. It's therapy for me. I get to talk to people I admire, but please do follow us. Please do subscribe, share with others. We laugh, sometimes we cry, and we share life stories, and I hope it encourages you. Come back again next week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.